Hi everyone, welcome back. This is the second part of my build for the Hegeler Mansion. So after several emails that I received and a couple of votes, I believe, on the blog post, I'm going to go with a Santa's Workshop theme for this. Part of that decision was also because seeing that it's 148, it will be difficult to replicate some of the surfaces and decorations that are in the Hegeler house that I would want to put into this if I was going to do it as it was intended. So I didn't think you'd want to sit here and watch me paint all this because it took like 4 or 5 coats of paint. Oh, this was a mess. I've managed to paint all of the parts that needed to be the white. It's actually an off-white. I've used folk art matte warm white because I didn't want like a stark white. Acrylic paint. I'm still under the weather, by the way, so excuse my sniffling and coughing and scratchy throat. But, so I've painted all of this part. I painted all of this, and I'm not extremely thoroughly happy with the paint job, but after the 5th coat, I was like, I'm done. This part, I painted all of this. Let me tell you, this was not easy. I tried my best to cover up the gaps. There's some places that I didn't get them covered up, but I think I have a way to hide those eventually. And what I used was this U.S. Art Supply modeling paste. It's acrylic medium to fill gaps. I do have a link to that in the blog post. But, so, like I said, this is 4 or 5 coats of paint and filler. I need to refill it again, but I don't think I'm going to because I think I'm going to do something else on top of this. I haven't painted the stairs yet. Those are, let me tell you, real fun. Not. But I did get this front staircase done. And in my first video, if you remember, I had taken baker's twine and put it down here to help hide these gaps between all the little stair parts. So I have cut that off, painted it white, and I'm now going to cover each area with this bead chain that I have. Excuse me. And then I've used some flat back pearls for each of the posts. I also have these 2 little trees, which I think I'm going to put right here, and that will help hide some of the areas here that are not painted that well. But I think they'll be really pretty, and then I'll put some decorations on the tree. So I have 2 of them, 1 for each side. But all I've done here is taken this bead chain, and I'm kind of using the natural curve of it. And then I'm just going to add a big bead of glue going up this row. I started to get all this done. And then get down to the last one. And then I'm just going to lay this down on top. Now, if you're doing this, be kind of careful because if you get glue on your fingers and then you get it on top of the bead chain, it will turn it matte. So you kind of want to try to keep your fingers off the top of the beads if you get any glue on your fingers. And it's a little contrary, so you do have to sit and hold it while it's drying a bit to keep it all down in place. And let's see what we'll do next. These parts don't come into play for a little while, so I won't do these 2 pieces. This won't go to the 2nd floor. This one goes here, but I'll wait on that until I decide it's time to attach this to here. Yeah, I think that's cute. And then put the trees in here. I think I'm going to go ahead and add snow and probably cover pretty much most of this part right here, here, and back around here with the snow texture. And then I'll come in and maybe add some on the steps a little bit. And then once I get that in, then I will add the trees and add some little flat back, I don't know if I want to add decorations on this or not. Probably so, but we'll wait and see. So here you can see where I've added the snow around the base, on the steps, around between the little stair posts, and the trees have been added, and I did use a little bit of snow texture on the trees and flat back pearls for decorations. I've used this texture paste and then added some Stickles glitter into it, and that's what I've used for the snow, and that will be added to the base around the bottom post and will help cover up any gaps that still remain. And I've used a little palette knife to apply all of this. So the next step would be to add in the wallpaper, and I've cut everything to size, so those will be attached and glued in place. I'm going to use this for a rug, I think, that will go in this kitchen area. And it's just printed paper that I'm using. And I've applied it with tacky glue. To make my templates for the flooring, I'm using Post-it notes. I learned this from Ara Bentley at Bentley House Minis. Thank you, Ara. It's a great idea. And you simply just use your Post-its, lay them on the floor, cut pieces if necessary to reach all of the areas, tape that together, then pull it up and use that as a template on whatever your paper is. Make sure that once you cut it out, you test fit it a couple of times. Make any adjustments as needed, and then now you can see I'm going to add it or lay it on top of my flooring and cut that out. Now I just used a pen to draw around the outside edges, and now I'll cut it out. And test fit it again, making any adjustments if needed. And here you can see I've created the flooring for all three areas. And I use a brayer to roll over the surface once I get it glued down, just to make sure all of the air bubbles are out and that the flooring is laying flat and is secured well to the base. So here you can see I've used the same process to add the wallpaper to all of the walls. Just be careful, you don't want to cover any tabs that are sticking out. And you also want to check where one wall connects to the next wall and make sure that there's no paper where those walls attach. So here I've got all of my wallpaper in and all the flooring in. And be sure and cut those little holes out for the staircase. This is the rug I'm going to use. I've added it to a textured paper, just printed it on my regular inkjet printer. I've added baker's twine around the edge, and then a plain piece of white cardstock on the back to make it sturdier. And I'm going to glue it in place here in the kitchen. And then I have all of my pieces for my windows and my doors out already. I tried fitting the door in, and I think it's because there's excess glue. So I may have to sand the sides of the door opening to get the door to fit. In the end, it was kind of a tight fit, and I had to really struggle to get it in there. The windows, there's two parts. You have an inner part and an outer part. The smaller piece goes on the inside. And make sure that you've covered that little area with your wallpaper on the inside. And then here is the outside piece. And they fit just like that. So now I'm going to paint all of the trim pieces. I've laid down a piece of masking tape onto a piece of cardboard, and then just lightly press the pieces onto it. This will help hold them in place while I'm painting them, and you don't have to try to hold it with your fingers. I generally do 2 coats on everything, and here you can see I've added 2 coats to all of the window frames, those little extra pieces that go in between the posts and the door frames, and here is the door. And I finally, can't speak, finally did get the door to fit. It was a little tight, and I had to do a little bit of sanding and scraping off of some glue from the door piece where it was put together, but it did finally work out real well. And then you have the little frame pieces that go on each. Using Folk Art Matte Warm White, and I'm going to just stipple on some of this white or off-white paint onto the outside bricks of the sides. And you simply just dip your paint in the brush, or dip your brush in the paint. This is a stencil brush I'm using, a small one. Wipe most of the paint off on the paper towel, and then you just pounce the brush on top of the piece. And this is just going to add a texture to the bricks and a mottled effect so that it's just not a flat beige or ivory colored brick. It will add some dimension into it. You can go as heavy or as light as you want. Now, if you happen to get paint down into the little scored grout lines, you can use a toothpick. I'm using a scribe tool, and you can run it along those lines to pull up those paints. Just be sure and do it before the paint dries. You'll have better success. And now I'm going to glue this doorway in and hold it with clips until it dries. Like I said, the door was a little contrary. The next thing would be the trim around the door openings for the inner walls. And on this one piece, I'm not going to add a door there. So I've gone in and painted inside between the trim and the inside of the wood. The next thing I would do is I'm going to use some heavyweight cardstock with just thin strips as a chair rail, baseboard, and crown molding. And these can be as simple or as elaborate as you like. You can cut these strips, cut one taller than the other, and put the shorter one on top to add a second layer to it. So you can go crazy with this, or you can just use a simple flat piece. But the heavyweight cardstock does have enough thickness to it that it does show off of the wall, so it really does a good job of using or making these features in a 1/48 scale. I've been doing this type of trim for a long time now. So here's a look at where we're at now. I have painted all of the outside. I've added a little bit of texture to it. Covered up some of those gaps on the posts. I've stippled the outside walls with the off-white paint, added all of the windows in. The trim is in place on the inner walls. All of the wallpaper and flooring is in. So, and I have laid the stairwell in there, just set it in there. I'm not attached yet. I'm not going to attach it until later because I'm trying to decide what I want to do about it. So our first floor at this point is pretty much done. And I will let you just take a look here and see what it looks like. So this concludes part 2. And I'm not sure when part 3 will be added. I would imagine sometime after September. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you back for part 3. Have a fantastic day.